I landed at the wrong airport, but it's not what you think. The story begins in northern Montana, where I was hired to ferry an Ercoupe to Lake Hood, Alaska, near Anchorage. I was very excited for this trip. I'd never been to Canada before, and flying through it, I knew there was going to be a lot of new things to see, a lot of new people to meet, and a lot of amazing experiences to be had. The first leg of the trip, I stopped in Sweetwater, Montana, where the Highway Border Patrol were also the Airport Border Patrol. I landed in the small grass strip, which was half in the United States and half in Canada. The Highway Patrol drove over to the strip, checked my passport, looked at the aircraft, and I was on my way. I knew that flying through Canada and Alaska, from my experience, you always had to call ahead to make sure they had fuel. Being the Ercoupe, it only held 24 gallons of fuel, and it burnt 5 gallons an hour, so I had to stop for fuel frequently, which I was used to. The trip was mostly uneventful, except for a small hiccup in Watson Lake, which we'll talk about in another video. After clearing customs in Juneau, I made it all the way to Yakutat, where I stopped for the night. They were very nice there. They fueled me up first thing in the morning, and I was on my way to Anchorage for the final leg of the trip. The last fuel stop I made turned out to be the most complicated one of the entire trip. I called ahead. Cordova Air Service picked up, and they said indeed they did have 100 low lead, and they would be there when I was there. As I followed the rocky beaches and icy bays up to Cordova from Yakutat, I saw beautiful scenery unlike I had ever seen before. I finally landed in Cordova at the 7,500 long foot paved strip and saw an Alaska jet sitting on the ramp. I quickly taxied around looking for the fuel and couldn't find anything. I began to get slightly worried because I didn't have enough fuel to make it to Anchorage, and I also didn't have enough fuel to make it back to Yakutat. I'd hoped I'd called the right Cordova. After calling Cordova Air Service again, she informed me that they were on the northwest side of the runway, and she sounded very confused of how I could ever have been lost at the Cordova airport. So again, I followed the taxiway down to the beginning of the runway to the northwest side of the airport, and nothing was to be found. After taxiing around for about 10 to 15 minutes, I decided that it was time to call for help again. It was slightly embarrassing, but I'd had to. I called again, slightly aggravated because I couldn't find the fuel service, but she informed me that they were indeed on the airport and they were open. I told her that I looked everywhere and I could not find them. I taxied all around and asked her what the location was from the Alaskan Airlines terminal. She informed me that in fact their location from the Alaskan Airlines terminal was about 8 miles to the northwest. I quickly discovered that there was another airport in Cordova, and rather than the gas being located on the 7,500 foot paved strip, the fuel was located at the 1,800 foot gravel strip next to the pond close to downtown. I hopped back in the plane and had plenty of fuel to get there. I was slightly embarrassed after showing up at the correct airport. I became very frustrated from the lady's unclear directions, and even after calling her, I still couldn't find it. But after I got there, I quickly realized why she was so unclear. It was literally a short gravel strip with only one end out right next to the fuel pump. There was a man there after I taxied up. He pulled over in an old pickup truck with a small fuel transfer tank in the back. He filled the Ercoupe up with 100 low lead, and I was back on my way. I laugh about it thinking today how frustrated I was getting not being able to find the fuel in the airfield. This was the last fuel stop I needed to get to Anchorage. I flew the airplane and followed the outer coast until I got to the Lake Hood area, where I promptly read the sectional chart to follow the specific procedure necessary to navigate the complicated airspace. I landed at the small gravel strip right next to the Lake Hood airport and handed the keys to the new owner of the aircraft. Overall, it was an amazing experience that I wouldn't trade for anything, and look forward to doing it again one day. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Please subscribe down below. There'll be more to come. Thank you very much. So just remember, if you can't find fuel service in an airport, you might be at the wrong airport.